Choosing between Google's Nano Banana and ByteDance's Seedream 4.0 is confusing when both companies make compelling claims about speed, quality, and capabilities. So I tested them head-to-head across 13 image generation and editing capabilities using identical prompts to see which tool actually wins at what. In this video, you'll go through how to access both models for free, platforms to use if you want to access them at their full potential, and the results from 13 head-to-head tests. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which model to use for each creative goal. So, let's dive in. So in case you want to follow along and test this out while you're going through the video, or maybe right after, I'm going to show you how to access both models completely for free. So the best and most reliable way is through LM Arena. You can just type in lmarena.ai on your URL, and you'll see a battle button over here. If you click that, then you'll have a direct chat option. And once you click it, there's gonna be a model dropdown. To make it easier, if you want to use Nano Banana or Seedream, then just click Generate Images. And as you can see, Nano Banana is already the default option. And if you want to use Seedream, you can basically just type Seedream here. There are two options here, 4 or high res. Based on my testing, I found that high res does provide a better quality. Like, duh, obviously. That's why it's called high risk. So I suggest you use that. LM Arena gives you limited chats per session, but a hack I found, come closer. It's a secret, is to open an incognito tab. So once you open an incognito tab, your limits refresh and then you can chat again. And once you run out of limits, then just close that incognito tab and then open a new one. And trust me, this works. I've been doing this for quite a lot actually. But to get the full capabilities of the model, I actually used Gemini for Nano Banana, and I used fal.ai for Seedream. So if you're on the free plan of Gemini, you can still generate Nano Banana images, although you will get limited eventually. But for fal, the generations are paid, but they're pretty affordable. So to access Seedream here, you just have to go through search, then type in Seedream, and select ByteDance Seedream V4 Edit. Now, Seedream 4 is an image editing model, but it also has text-to-image capabilities like Nano Banana, which you can access by just clicking this drop-down and then selecting text-to-image over here. So for fal, I put in $10 on my API credits, and I believe I had $1 from a promotion they were running before. And I've generated hundreds of images, and I still only consumed roughly around $3. And the reason I mentioned fal for using Seedream is because on LM Arena, you basically just have the chat. But on fal, you would have access to setting up the dimensions of the image. Here you can see it's portrait, landscape, different aspect ratios, and also setting the resolution. So Seedream can go up to 4K actually. As you can see here, I've set it to 3840 by 2160, which is a 4K 16:9 image. And you can also control the number of images to be generated for each request. So it can go up to 6. Now let's dive into testing each model across 13 different capabilities. So we'll have a 2-1-0 scoring system, where 2 will indicate a clear winner, 1 as passed or not much difference between the two, and 0 as failed or the model not having the capability. So the first capability would be speed comparison. Now, the easiest way to demo this is actually through LM Arena. So you can click on side by side, and here we have Seedream 4 high res, and we can select Gemini 2.5 flash or Nano Banana. And then we can give it this prompt that says create a professional portrait of a 25-year-old businesswoman in modern office wearing navy blue blazer. Now, if we click send, you can see that the images are generating now, and let's wait for it. So Nano Banana is finished and it took around 9 seconds. And Seedream is still going. And there you go. Now, based on my entire test, this isn't a one-off result. Nano Banana is faster, whether it be on LM Arena or on the Gemini app itself. Now, it's kind of weird because Seedream was claiming around 1.8 seconds to generate an image. But what I've found on my test is it's actually closer to 20 seconds or even 30 seconds if you're generating a 4K image. So with that said, for speed comparison, then we'll be giving Nano Banana a score of 2 and Seedream a score of 1. Now up next is image generation quality and resolution. Now the purpose of this test is to establish baseline quality expectations, including resolution capabilities and fine detail rendering. So for each capability, by the way, you'll find the prompt that I used here. In this case, I asked them to generate an image from scratch for a cinematic portrait of a 30-year-old photographer in a vintage bookstore. And as you can see here, I inputted in a prompt lighting details and fine details like the expression and highly detailed and maximum quality. This is the Nano Banana result, and this is the Seedream result. Now on the marketing materials, they're saying that Nano Banana generates images up to 2K and Seedream generates up to 4K images. Now if we zoom it here, we can see that once we get super close, the image starts kind of getting pixelated over here. And for Seedream, with the same zoom, we can see that it's much more clearer. So Seedream, you can control like the resolution of the image up to 4K, and it does generate 4K images. For Nano Banana, I found it defaults to around 1280 or 1920 at the maximum, depending on the base image you give it. So for this round, Seedream takes the win with 2 points, and Nano Banana gets 1 point. So the next test is character consistency, which is testing each model's ability to maintain facial identity across transformations. For this test, I asked Nano Banana and Seedream to turn me into a Renaissance painter in my art studio. And I gave it instructions like that I should be wearing period-appropriate clothing, with paint-stained apron and holding a palette and a brush. So if we zoom in, this is the image that I gave it. And for Nano Banana, it did super well. It maintained what I look like. I would say that does look like me. Maybe I'm a bit more dashing in real life. You be the judge. And for Seedream, it gave me this. For some reason, the quality here is a bit more distorted, but it kind of looks more like a painting actually. But for this test, we're testing identity preservation anyway. So yeah, this still does look like me. So what I noticed here actually is that Nano Banana is better with maintaining the style of the image you provided. So in this case, I provided a photorealistic image, right? And it gave me a photorealistic image. Now, Seedream also maintained my facial identity well, but it did kind of apply a more of a Renaissance painting texture to this image. So it would be good to take note of that. But overall, since it's fairly close and each model just has their own nuance, for character consistency, both Nano Banana and Seedream get 1 point each. Now, the character consistency on both models is impressive, but now let's test something only one of these models can do. So batch generation is simply to test if each model can create multiple images in one request. So I fed it the image of this smartphone here and gave it the prompt, create 4 variations of a modern smartphone product shot on a clean white background. Now, I showed you earlier that Seedream can generate a maximum of 6 images. In this case, I only put in 4. But I also wanted to test if Nano Banana can do the same. So I gave it this prompt to create 4 variations. Since I don't have control on the Gemini app on how many images it should generate, it only generates 1 by 1. And the results are Gemini only generated me 1 image over here, despite giving it this prompt, but Seedream did generate 4 different images. As you can see, this was a screen grab from fal. There are download buttons for each image. So for this capability, Nano Banana gets a 0 and Seedream gets a 2. The next test would be for text and typography. So this is to test each model's ability to handle text-heavy designs and typography accuracy. And I can say that both of them performed great. So I asked it to create a vintage concert poster for AI for non-coders and to feature bold typography with the main title in decorative font, like and subscribe. And the date now.
How'd that get in there?
And as you can see the results, here's the one for Nano Banana, and here's the one for Seedream. And they both did it beautifully. You can see we have AI for non-coders here. Venue is like and subscribe, and then we have the text now here. And for Seedream, AI for non-coders here, like and subscribe now. Now they both passed the test. For aesthetics though, for this specific poster, I do like Seedream better, but that's just preference. For capabilities, they both performed well. We give both a score of 1. Now, both models did great with text rendering, but now let's test conversational editing. And here, one model is a clear winner. So the goal of the multi-step conversational editing test is to compare iterative editing capabilities and natural language understanding. So we fed it this image of a lady in an office, and we fed it these series of prompts. So first is to change the background to a cozy coffee shop with warm lighting. It changed the lighting to be warmer, and then it put a film grain over the image. This was done through the Gemini app. Now for Seedream, we don't have access to its native chatbot yet, so I tested this using LM Arena. And the results are good, but not as great as Nano Bananas. You can see here on the first image, there's a slight change to the woman's pose. So her hand kind of went down. And then on the second image, it went back up. But if we view the aesthetics for each, this one just looks more natural compared to this one. And for the film grain, I think it went a bit overboard compared to what Nano Banana did. So again, this just might be because we're accessing Nano Banana through Gemini, which has a baked-in LLM into it. And we're accessing Seedream on LM Arena, which is a chat interface, but it's not their native one. But for now, for multi-step conversational editing, based on the capabilities and access that we have, I gave a score of 2 for Nano Banana and 1 for Seedream. So let's get into one of the more power use cases for image editing models, which is multi-image composition. So the goal of this test is to test each model's ability to naturally combine different subjects into one image. So we have this image of a man here, a weird shirt, a cup, and a coffee shop. So I asked the models to combine these images and make the man in the first image wear the shirt on the second image and drink from the coffee cup on the third image and place him in the coffee shop on the fourth image. Nano Banana did a pretty good job here. So you can see this isn't exactly the man, but it's pretty close. The shirt, I think it got spot on. The cup also, it got spot on. And the coffee shop over here, it also got. Now for Seedream, we can see that the man more resembles the man here compared to Nano Banana. But the shirt color is actually a bit off. It's more pink here compared to like Nano Banana, who really maintained the color of the shirt. The cup is also a bit off. I would say for the background, both did pretty well. So it's more of a case-by-case basis. And again, now we're starting to see that both models are indeed capable of these different capabilities, but they have their different quirks. So for multi-image composition, we're giving both a score of 1. Now let's test their ability to recreate subjects from new perspectives while maintaining identity with the different camera angles test. So we took the same man here. We gave it the prompt, show the same person in 3 different camera angles while maintaining their outfit and expression with the same photographic style and quality. And Nano Banana and Seedream both did a really good job. The models took a different approach where Nano Banana just created this grid. Is that what you call it? A grid of images in different camera angles. And for Seedream, it just kind of made the images side by side. But both are good. For each test, I actually ran it 3 times and then took the best results from each. And the results are kind of quite similar for different camera angles. Seedream just has this outlier result where it really got the different camera angles for front, side, and back. So for the different camera angles use case, which is super useful if you're creating or training LoRa's for different image models, we give each model a score of 1. Now let's see see how they handle environment edits with the background changes test. Now, this is to test the ability to recreate subjects from new perspectives while maintaining identity. Now, I gave it this image of me again, and I said replace the background with a serene mountain lake at sunrise, and adjust the lighting to match golden hour conditions to maintain the person's pose and clothing exactly, and ensure natural light interaction with the subject. We can see clearly that Seedream's results here look way more natural than Nano Banana's, because if I'm outside, there's no other light source except this one, the one from the sun, right? So this should be more shadowed like what Seedream did compared to Nano Banana, where my face and my entire body is still lit up. And I ran this test extensively. Like, I think I had a little close to 10 tries per model. The results from Seedream from a lighting and background perspective, and then just blending all of the images together, are just way more natural. So because of that, we're giving a score of 1 for Nano Banana and 2 for Seedream. Now going to the next test, which is object placement. So this is simply to test intelligent object integration and scene understanding. So I gave it an image of this Mazda Miata and a driveway. And here again, we see different approaches per model, right? We can see that on first glance, the Seedream generation does look better, but you can also see that it changed the lighting significantly from the base image of the driveway. Now the driveway is sunny. And as for Nano Banana, it kept the lighting on the driveway base image exactly the same. And it kind of did integrate the car properly as well. Now I tested this again with different use cases, and they both perform pretty well and you can get passing results. It's just that each model has a different approach to how they're placing objects and reacting to the prompt, specifically with the ensure natural light interaction part. Seedream tends to change the lighting from the base image, while Nano Banana can keep it tighter and closer to the original images you gave it. So for the object placement test, we give a score of 1 for each, which brings us to 11 for the banana and 13 for the seed. Now let's go into the material change test, which is to test material and texture understanding with realistic transformations. So we gave it an image of this woman wearing a denim jacket, and we asked the models to change the material of the woman's jacket to black leather and maintain a proper fit. So we can see again two different results here. You'll notice that again the models took different approaches to the prompt, right? For Nano Banana, you can see that it maintained the exact same background color composition, so it's kind of like off-white, compared to Seedream, where it kind of made it more white than the original image. But for this object itself, they both did well. They did turn this into leather. But personally, I do prefer Seedream's interpretation of leather here. This looks more leather than this one. This kind of still looks like a bit denim-y. Denim-y, is that even a word? So again, I noticed that Seedream kind of takes the prompt and the details in the prompt more intensely than what Nano Banana does. So Nano Banana is more focused on the natural integration and keeping the images as close to how they were in the original, while Seedream is more focused on following what you put in the prompt. In this case, the realistic leather texture and the sheen. But again, I don't think there's a clear winner here. It's a case-by-case basis. Like if you value the consistency from the original image, then I would go with Nano. If you value more of prompt adherence, then I would go with Seedream. So in that case, we give a score of 1 for each, giving Nano Banana a score of 12 and the Seed a score of 14. Now let's get into style transfer, which is to test artistic style transfer while maintaining the subject. And this test also included style consistency across multiple edits. Basically a conversational edit. Now we gave it this base image of a woman wearing white and has a white bag. And for the initial prompt, we said to apply a Van Gogh style painting to this image and to maintain the person's likeness. The results for Nano Banana are here and Seedream here. And then we said to add the forest background in the same Van Gogh style, which are the second images here, and then to change the person's clothing color to red while preserving the style, which are the results here. And you can see that the clear winner here is Nano Banana. Not only did it better maintain the identity of the subject, but it also better applied the style across the edits. Now, Seedream was able to maintain the subject and it was able to implement the Van Gogh style, but Nano Banana's results is just significantly closer to how we would interpret a Van Gogh painting, right? So this is where we see that data plays a big part. Of course, Google has probably the biggest data stores in the world and has reference for a lot of images, compared to Seedream from China, where it might not have that much context on this particular artistic style. But it would be interesting actually to test this across different styles, like anime styles or styles more closer to Eastern designers or painters, and see how it goes. So if anyone did do that, please let me know in the comments how it went. But for this specific test, we're giving Nano Banana a score of 2 and the Seed a score of 1. Now for the last test, we're going with photo restoration and enhancement, which is to test damage photo repair and quality enhancements. So I gave it this broken old photo from Google and I said, restore this damaged photograph by applying the appropriate color, removing scratches, improving clarity, and so on. We can see that Nano Banana did add more detail and fix the photo outright, where Seedream took the approach of just patching up the broken lines here and colorizing the image. But across my tests actually, Nano Banana was consistent and gave me similar results like this, whereas Seedream mostly gave me still non-colorized photos like this with the scratches removed, but it's closer to this color. And this is actually the only result I got where it did apply a bit of color to it, and still it's not as close to the result as Nano Banana's. Therefore, for the photo restoration and enhancement test, I'm giving Nano Banana a 2 and Seedream a 1, which now brings us to a tie of 16 for the banana and 16 for the seed. Now that the tests are done, we see that there are significant strengths and weaknesses of each model. So for Nano Banana, you can see that it's way faster than Seedream. It's much better with multi-step conversational editing, and it's also better with applying styles and restoring photos. Seedream, on the other hand, has better quality and resolution. It can generate images in batches, and it also changes backgrounds more naturally. So again, which model to choose? That would depend on what you need. A sample workflow that I have here is, if you're gonna be generating the base image, it's best to use Seedream or maybe Midjourney or any other image generation model that you have, because you would get higher resolutions and overall just better aesthetics. Then you can use a mix of both Nano Banana and Seedream depending on their strengths that you see here. So if you want to make multi-step conversational edits or apply styles, then you choose Nano Banana. If you want to upscale the quality, use Seedream. And if it's any of the other use cases where it's a tie, then that would be up to you. And then once you have the final image and you want to scale it, like create different variations or get a better resolution, then move back to Seedream since it has batch generation and higher resolution. Now, if any of you have tested these models head to head as well, please let me know in the comments how it went for you. Your testing results helps everyone make better tool choices. And if you're interested in more comprehensive AI tool reviews or tutorials, then please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm planning deep dives into different kinds of AI tools for non-coders, from image and video generators, LLMs, automations, you name it. So please let me know what you'd love to learn next. And if you want a deep dive into Nano Banana capabilities with prompt templates attached, then make sure to check this video. And if you want a beginner workflow for how to create AI films using image editing models like Nano Banana or Seedream, then make sure to check out this video.